They bred him to be a lethal weapon, a 110-pound monster of pure muscle. But at 3:42 a.m., when a shadow crept through the window, this dangerous rescue dog did the one thing nobody expected. Tony was never supposed to know the meaning of a soft touch or a warm bed. He came into this cruel world at the hands of criminal backyard breeders who didn't see these puppies as living souls, but only as high-value products designed for aggression and toughness. At just 8 weeks old, while he was still a tiny, wrinkled blonde baby small enough to cradle in 2 hands, with eyes filled with a sorrow he should have never known, he was pulled out of a nightmare. But his rescue was just the beginning of another trial. A difficult court case kept him locked behind the cold steel bars of a high-risk shelter for 5 agonizing months. For a giant like Tony, who was born needing constant closeness and touch, spending those months sleeping alone on concrete floors felt like 1,000 lifetimes. From behind the iron bars, he watched the other dogs howling through the night and their spirits vanishing one by one. Meanwhile, he grew into a massive and intimidating frame that made every potential adopter shudder as they passed his cage. "So scary," they whispered, but when the Patterson family saw him, they didn't see a weapon. They saw a shattered soul wrapped in a 110-pound package. The day they brought him to their small seaside home in Cornwall, the air in the house was electric with tension. The resident cats hissed like steam engines, glaring from high perches with unmistakable fury at this massive and clumsy creature who hadn't yet figured out that not everyone wanted a face full of puppy breath at 6 in the morning. Tony wasn't aware of his own strength. He knocked over water bowls, stepped on tails, and radiated a stress so intense it could almost be felt like smoke in the room. For a full 72 hours, he paced the hardwood floors incessantly, his claws keeping an anxious rhythm that echoed through the quiet house. He whined softly, searching for a sense of safety he couldn't yet name. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, I have to say I'm a little heartbroken. Stories like this need your support. Hit that subscribe button right now, you won't regret it. Now back to what happened next, because the moment Tony finally realized he was safe, everything around him began to change in a way that would leave even the experts speechless. In the second week of his new life, it was as if a divine switch flipped inside Tony's massive brain. He stopped the endless pacing, ceased his whimpering, and for the first time truly tasted what it meant to have a kingdom. He claimed every soft surface in the house as his own property. However, the real miracle unfolded on the salt-scented beaches just a few yards from their front door. The moment Tony felt the warmth of the sand between his paws and realized that there were no longer any fences, bars, or limits, he experienced a total explosion of joy. With his ears flying and jowls flapping, his 110-pound body moved at a speed that defied the laws of physics, radiating a joy so pure it felt like a physical light shining around him. He appointed himself the chief supervisor of the family's car restoration shop and began trotting through the garage with an air of authority as if he owned the place. Mechanics working under vintage engines would suddenly find that massive, wrinkled face, goofy smile, and enormous brown eyes staring back at them, turning even the toughest workdays into a celebration. Yet, despite his intimidating stature, Tony was actually a gentle giant with the soul of a timid toddler. A simple tape measure was enough to make him dive behind a couch as if it were a grenade. The sudden sound of wind would make him glance over his shoulder in genuine fear, convinced that a monster was lurking in the darkness. His appearance was bred to intimidate, but his core was soft as silk. Every morning, he would slip into the bedroom, crawl under his father's duvet, and try to merge his massive heartbeat with the warmth of another. He refused to believe he wasn't the size of a lapdog. He was a 110-pound baby seeking the unconditional love he had nearly been denied. But as the town grew quiet and a burglar began prowling the streets, Tony's watchful eyes never truly closed. He began positioning himself at the bedroom door every single night. He was a silent sentinel that no one took seriously until the night that changed everything. The neighbors still called him a monster, but they were about to understand that Tony was only dangerous to the evil trying to enter his home. The silence was shattered when the clock struck 3:42 a.m. Tony, who usually snored like a freight train, suddenly stood up like a living fortress. He didn't bark, he didn't move. He simply pressed his 110-pound frame against the door, and a low, primal growl rose from his chest, rattling the bones of the intruder on the other side. When the mother and father were awakened by the sound of a window being forced open, they found their anxious baby transformed into a guardian angel of terrifying power. The burglar took one brief look at the massive, scarred face of the dog the world had cast out and fled into the darkness of the night. Tony didn't chase him. He simply turned around and pressed his nose against his father's chest. His mission accomplished. The truth hit them like a tsunami. Tony hadn't been breaking the rules by sneaking into the room for weeks. He had been sensing the danger long before anyone else. An evening later, the mother found her husband on the couch, cradling Tony's 110-pound mass, with tears streaming from his eyes as he looked at him. "I just love him so much," the man whispered. Tony became a local legend. He became a living shield that changed an entire town's perspective on dangerous breeds. He wasn't a monster. He was a soul that had seen the worst of humanity and responded with the best of it. Sometimes at night, his mother watches him lying on his back with his paws in the air, and she feels her throat tighten. She thinks of that cage, the concrete, and the people who wanted to turn him into a weapon. But love heals. Love transforms. Tony proved that your beginning doesn't write your ending. If you're considering adoption, do not pass by those with scars and stories. They aren't broken. They are just waiting to show you what safety feels like. If Tony could speak for just 1 minute, what would you want to ask him? Share your thoughts in the comments.